We have some good but potentially temporary news depending on who the next president is. And that news is that President Joe Biden has suspended drilling leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, also known as ANWR. The decision blocks for now oil and gas drilling in one of the largest tracts of undeveloped wilderness in the United States. The Biden administration yesterday suspended oil drilling leases in ANWR, unspooling a signature achievement of the Trump presidency. That's a good thing. And delivering on a promise by President Biden to protect the fragile Alaskan tundra from fossil fuel extraction. The decision sets up a process that could halt drilling in one of the largest tracts of untouched wilderness in the U.S., home to migrating waterfowl, caribou, and polar bears. But it also lies over as much as 11 billion barrels of oil. And Democrats and Republicans have fought over whether to allow drilling there for more than 4 decades. A formal order from Interior Secretary Deb Haaland paused the leases until her agency has completed an environmental analysis of their impact and a legal review of the Trump administration's decision to grant them. So this is good. This is what could be done right now. We're 4 months in, 4 months in, almost 4.5 months into Joe Biden's presidency. But this really needs to be made permanent. And the point that I keep going back to on this is we really don't need this. And of course, the right wingers, the gas price will go up a tenth of a cent again, and they'll point to this. I actually saw a comment on Reddit which said nothing like importing foreign oil at increased rates just so that later we can go and drill the very oil that we are now protecting. No one is thinking long term. That is such an incorrect perspective. The whole point here is we should be moving away from oil. Anybody who's saying, the goal for energy should be let's keep pushing even if it takes years to be drilling in the Arctic, in the ANWR refuge. No. We should be using this time during which we actually already have plenty of oil to transition away from oil. And I think that very often this debate gets into these straw man arguments like, listen, if you shut off oil today, indoor heating goes away. We don't have gasoline for vehicles. We don't have this. We don't have that. I don't know who they're referring to when they say that, but I've never met anyone serious on the left who says we should be off oil today. I understand that if there would be no way to get off of oil today. But the whole point here is we should be dramatically accelerating solar power development. Oh, but David, you can't use solar power to generate it. Well, look at the efficiency increase we've seen in solar panels over the last 20 years. And if we get even half of the same over the next 10, that goes a huge way in combination with wind and geothermal, etc. Now, there is a real conversation to have about nuclear. I've said before, new nuclear is very, very safe. I am not a reflexive anti-nuclear activist. Very often, and we've talked to nuclear engineers on the nuclear energy engineers on the show, very often there's this reflexive, but look at Chernobyl and look at this stuff from the 70s. The reality is that if we were to bring on new nuclear today with modern nuclear technology, none of those things would be issues. So for me, I'm totally comfortable using new nuclear as a stopgap. What are the concerns that I have with it? Number one, the disposal of the waste continues to be an issue. I don't know about, but there's people who say, nah, you just ship it, you put it underground, it's fine. I'm just not sure about that. I'm not saying there isn't a solution, but that still remains a question for me. But really the bigger question for me with saying, let's use nuclear as a way to be a bridge off of fossil fuels and onto real renewables, is that it seems to me we would get addicted to nuclear. And it takes a while to bring new nuclear technology online. So my concern would be if we say, let's do new nuclear, and it'll take 8 years to bring some of this online. By the time that it's online, the fact that we've been focusing on nuclear might have diverted energy and attention and funding from real renewables. And that scares me. But in theory, I am not against doing new, safe nuclear as a stopgap. One other thing, there are people who like to say the sun's not really renewable. You know, I mean, it's event. We've got 5 to 6 billion years of solar. Okay, that's if we by five. If the human race survives that long, we can never be certain about anything. But I would be reasonably sure that we would have moved somewhere where the sun exploding in 5 to 6 billion years is not going to be what destroys the human race. So for all practical purposes, when we're talking about peak oil and we're talking about 10, 20, 50, 100-year timelines of what we're doing to the planet with oil use, 5 to 6 billion years of solar power sounds pretty damn renewable to me. All right, so good decision by Joe Biden. We'll follow it. And of course, there's a bigger conversation here about a bigger transition that needs to take place.